pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel here for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Amen. Thank you. All right.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Our first order of business is to consider and approve the minutes from last year's annual meeting. Now, those minutes are on the tables, and some of you may have glanced at them. If you haven't, you have a little time now to look at them quickly, and I certainly would entertain any questions that you might have. These minutes were taken by our clerk, Emily Schley, and she might be able to answer questions if I am not able to do so. So take a quick look, eyeball the minutes, and if there are any questions, please raise your hand, and Emily or I will try to answer them for you. Yes, Andy? I move to accept the minutes from the 2024 annual meeting. Thank you, Andy. Is there a second? John Hinchy seconds. Andy proposes and John Hinchy seconds. All in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Keep it there. All right, so Rector's report, just a little administrative note. I think there is a voter registration going around by the canons of the church. Those who are what's called communicants in good standing, SIGs for short, are allowed to vote. I know, it's not the best now, isn't it? It's not. Are allowed to vote. That means you've been here in worship at least 3 times during the past year. You've given to the church in some capacity, and those are the main ways you become a communicant in good standing. So if that goes around and you think you are a communicant in good standing and your name is not on the list, it's very easily correctable. Just write your name in there. That is not a perfect list because we are not perfect people. All right. So. Rector's report, this is if we're going to go long at the annual meeting, it's usually on me. So I'm going to do my best just to kind of run through this really quickly. You've got really the nuts and bolts here right in front of you in black and white. As I look back over 2024, big opportunities for us were to onboard really critical personnel. So we hired Lori Sinclair. Lori has been fantastic. Yeah, hooray, hooray. Yeah, really. This is a very complicated system among Episcopal churches, among churches on the whole. The fact that we have endowments, we have not only a columbarium, we have a memorial garden. We have many, many ways that people can give to the church, electronically and otherwise. So Lori has an incredible amount to keep track of. She's done great. We also welcomed Father Matt Phillips, which has been a fantastic hire. Yeah, hooray, hooray. Matt has been really doing a lot of work in a lot of areas. He's taken over some programming off my plate, leading with Theology by the Pint, with helping Andrew Jaton with the men's group. There's the Wednesday morning Eucharist, which has long been a part of the associate's role. If you've been reading the weekly emails, Matt's taking a strong role in Lenten programming here. So very, very grateful for your work and what you've brought to this parish. We revitalized the youth program, thanks to the vestry and some key members on the vestry who really sort of pushed against kind of like the status quo of that being a wobbly ministry. There were people who didn't really believe that it had to be a wobbly ministry, and so one of the reasons we brought Matt in, one of the reasons I don't know if Bailey and Julie are here or not. They got their hands full doing other things. But we put middle school under Julie Davis and high school under both Matt and Bailey. And with incredible speed, they have really made this robust program. And it's really like a marvel. And we're even doing a youth trip, a youth mission trip. I think we have the people to do the youth mission trip this summer, which is really just remarkable and something we should just pause, be grateful for. There are not a lot of youth ministries in Episcopal churches right now, and so and we all know how critical those years are, because adolescence has just never been harder to be a 14-year-old in our culture, and so bringing the love and light of Christ into their life is just fantastic. We built a memorial garden. I think it speaks for itself. If you haven't wandered around that space, please do so. It's even, I think, that has some beauty, particularly in the winter. That was a group that met for like 15 months maybe and pondered many, many different ideas. We all made space for one another's ideas and built this fantastic consensus. And I think the result really speaks for itself. We continued, by God's grace, to build the largest Episcopal church in Wisconsin. You know, it's probably kind of vain to put in this graph here. You know, I put it in, I started it at 2009 because that's when I became the priest in charge. I could have just said, you know, it's an even number, 15 years. But I really did it. I really did it for me. And so, you know what? That's the rector you have. That's the rector you have. So you know, I'm a work in progress like everybody else. But I think it is remarkable, these numbers, and I think to whom much is given, much is expected. And so to continue to be a light to this community and to continue to figure out how to share some of the best practices of what we do here with the larger Episcopal Church, now the Diocese of Wisconsin, I think that's a challenge for us, and I think we can grow there. When we gather annually, we acknowledge the great losses among us and the people that have passed into Christ's nearer presence, including Sonia Pavlik, Allison Geimer, Christine Binder, Richard Draper, Gigi Short, and Elizabeth Stevens Hagerup. A church is made up of people, far more than a building or a budget or particular programs. And so we commend these people to the saints in light. I give special thanks for all those. I mean, a church is, I have many meetings with newcomers. I always tell people that membership at Christ Church involves three things. It involves coming to worship. It involves giving of your financial resources in some way. And then it involves getting involved in some way, because you pay staff, but really a church is a co-op. The church, the day-to-day, week-to-week energy of a church comes from lay people giving of their energy, pouring their love into this place. And so, you know, I acknowledge a few people here and there. Here we're going to, you know, acknowledge those who are stepping off the vestry, but I always want to just pause and make you know that I know that this place is so vibrant, not because you have a rector up here who wants to share his graphs, but because of what you all do week to week to week to week to week to build this place and to make it shine as the kingdom of God. And so I really do take that to heart, and I'm very, very grateful for you all. Those who are paid are listed here. I honestly think we've never had a stronger staff than we have right now. I also want to acknowledge that we're in somewhat of a different place in that of this staff list, Alex Conkle is the only person on here who is not a member of Christ Church. That requires a special burden when staff are wearing both of these hats, as a parishioner and as a staff member. It means sometimes that when they're sitting in the pew, someone comes up to them, maybe a little anxious, and asks about X, Y, or Z that's related to church administration, related to all kinds of different things. And so they've made this conscious choice to be able to try to manage wearing both of those hats. And I know you all are doing your best on Sunday mornings to let them, as much as possible, release into God's love and to worship here, remembering that they are just like you, and that they need some space to be able to experience that freedom of God's love. And I think that's happening, but every once in a while, I just want to give them some cover to be able to worship here on Sundays. Clergy in residence. These are folks that I name often at annual meetings. The big difference, the addition that we've had is the Right Reverend, I think it's Mikey. Mikey, right? Is Bishop Klusmeyer here? So if you're gonna call someone out and thank them, you probably should get their name right. So I think I have the Right Reverend Mike Klusmeyer, and he goes by Bishop Mike, but I'm pretty sure that his first name is Mikey, M-I-C-H-I-E. He and his wife Marcia have been incredible gifts to this place and been preaching. He's been in the choir, in the chapel. Marcia's in the choir doing healing prayer. The Reverend Doctors Mary and Jim Traynor are off on one of their month-long sojourns into the natural world. I think they're back today, maybe, or tonight. I think they might be back tonight. They're incredible gifts. Wes Dubik, of course, our seminarian, who's not here today, but Wes will preach next week. And we will say goodbye to Wes. He'll go back to probably the Diocese of Central Florida, although he's looking at options for the shape of his ministry and where God will call him. And then, it happened so fast. Well, Chris's death happened so fast. Chris Binder's death happened so fast. And then right on the tail of that, we said goodbye to Tom Binder, and that happened really fast. And Tom was such a gift to this place in so many ways. He loved you all. He loved this place. Tom is now close to family in Phoenix, and he's having this whole new, fantastic, I'm sure hard transition into a new place with new people. But we continue to keep him in our prayers and to give thanks for the ministry of Tom Binder. Penny Cruz steps down as finance chair after 2 years as warden. A very fruitful ministry. I very much give thanks for Penny's ministry. I'm going to recognize the vestry members near the end. Steve Bremer completes his role as senior warden. I've really enjoyed working with Steve. Steve was really instrumental in these two big hires, Lori Sinclair and Father Matt Phillips. Steve was my confidant, along with some others. And so to be able to kind of have a safe place to be able to hash things out was really, really critical. And Steve was also has this very humble, quiet role for the Memorial Garden. But it was a conversation with Steve that basically said, oh yeah, I think this is possible. And so very, very grateful for you, Steve. And Steve will give an address in a little bit, and we'll give that'll be a chance to thank him. Sarah Frieder steps into the role of senior warden. Very much looking forward to working with Sarah. Don Allen will be junior warden. Very much looking forward to working with Don. David Short, it's almost like he's an institution. Like you get up here and it's like we all expect it. We thank you, but I don't know if it always sinks through how much we value you. Yeah. I mean, we value you on many levels. We value you as a treasurer that keeps the books untangled, very complicated books. But we value you also for what you've done in the midst of caring for your mom, for Gigi. And we love Mark too. We love your whole family. But the way that you were able to continue to do this role with such faithfulness and attention to detail while providing a role model for caring for your mother in her last days. It was just really beautiful. So we're just incredibly grateful for you. Yeah. There's a person on here that I forgot, Randy Dean. Is Randy here? Randy goes to the 8 o'clock almost every Sunday, often as an usher or as a acolyte. Randy is involved in this very behind the scenes but unbelievably critical role of looking after our building. So Alex Conkle does a lot of kind of like he oversees the cleaning crew. He set up all the tables in here. Little things break, Alex fixes them. But Alex works full-time for the Urban Ecology Center. So Alex does not have the capacity, the bandwidth to take on right now really, really large projects. Like we're not yet used to it, and hopefully we never get used to the fact that our coat room is completely trashed. That's because, well, it is, and that's because there was a water leak. But you know, someone has to like project manage how we're going to get our coat room back to looking like a coat room. Someone has to talk to church insurance company to see if there's money there to pay. Someone has to talk to Findorf and say, you know what, Findorf, like we would like you to come fix this because we think this happened on your watch. And that someone is Randy Dean, like day in, day out, week in, week out, unpaid, but operating at this very high level of project management. And I'm just incredibly grateful because it's not easy work, and especially not as a volunteer to carry that kind of load. And so I wanted to call out Randy Dean. And of course, my family is amazing, and Maggie's amazing. We're really grateful for her, yeah. Yeah, here, absolutely. All right, so then looking ahead to 2025, I asked Randy to head up a committee of people who are going to be looking ahead to our 100-year anniversary. So Christ Church turns 100 in 2031. But we don't have to wait till 2031. We want to be thinking about that celebration, but we also want to be thinking about this place for the next 100 years. For the next 100 years, because if there's any Episcopal church that has a very, very good chance, certainly by God's grace, of being rooted in this spot in 2131, it's this community. You know, we don't know what life will look like. We don't know if there'll be flying cars and robots, but there'll be people, and there'll be people who need to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. And so we're thinking about what are the projects that this group, what are the things long term? How is our building now? What are potential things that our building is going to need in the future? And how do we sort of get ahead of those? Because if there's anything, if you go around the church and if you had to ask, what are those elements of parish life that really threaten to strangle ministry, and ministry being caring for one another and bringing God's light into the world, it's often building concerns. And so we don't want to have those kind of big surprises grip this place. And so we're going to be thinking about big things long term. Now, there's been a lot of people who've come here after COVID, and you may or may not know the timeline of a massive building project that we did in 2017-18. Fundraising began, I think, in 2016. Merity and Tom, right? 2016. So we did a lot then. We refreshed this space. We built the Good Shepherd room. We put an elevator in. We redid the youth room that is super loved by the kids. But one of the things that but there are still some tired spaces. That nursery area down there, I mean, talk about something that we've kind of gotten used to over the years. Like, if you go in there with new eyes, you're like, what is happening down here? Like, why? If you're going to put the kids in the basement, like, let's make it a nice basement, right? That's a really tired space. And then also, you know, our church, the nave, hasn't really been touched in about 70 years. It's this beautiful space that has this historic character, but those of us who've been to many different churches, we went to Italy, you can have this beautiful historic building that keeps all of the character, all of the texture, but it can be a little brighter. It can feel a little bit less tired. And so this group, this long-term facilities planning group, is going to spend some time sort of dreaming about some of these parts of these spaces that are tired. And we'll be asking for little groups to get together to help discern what things might be. You're not going to just come into church one day and it's all pink and you're like, who did this? So there's going to be times for people to give us their ideas, their feedback, and of course, yes. So pay attention to that group as it's just launched. We've only had one meeting. We'll continue to build momentum, and I just along those lines, I want to say this. We use this building for a lot of different things. We use this building as a light to the community in ways that are outside of Sunday morning. So we had a blood drive in this space. We have recovery meetings almost every day that happen throughout the space, much in the basement. There are many, many ways. We have international students cook a meal and come and hang out in here. But there are many, many ways that we do open this place and use our space for the larger world. But in a day and age in which we are facing incredible animosity and loneliness and bitterness and suspicion, one neighbor to another, the primary way that we will always use this space is to bring people in to a spiritual community and to give them a sense of God's love and healing grace. And so I just want to plant that seed because I know that we have many people in this church who have this really deep love for the ways that Christ Church uses funds to help those in need. And I think and that's amazing. And this church every year seems to give a little bit more away. And I don't want there to be this either or, like you either have to give your funds out into the community or you have to brighten up and freshen up your own space. It is not an either or. By using our worship space, by making it as beautiful and warm and alive as we possibly can, this is a profound gift to the larger world. And this glorifies God, and this builds this vibrancy, giving people a way that they're not alone, that they don't face their troubles alone. So I just plant that seed. Oh man, it's like 20 minutes. So sabbatical, I'm going to do a sabbatical, August, September, October. I announced this at the last meeting. You guys are going to be in really good hands. There's all kinds of fantastic lay people, lay leaders, clergy, and if you want to learn a little bit more about what I'm doing, I've got things sketched out a little bit more than this, but you can read it right in the annual report about what I'll be doing. And I think that's my rector's report. I think now I invite David to come up and offer his treasurer's report.
Thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm David. Whatever you want.
Yeah, because then you can look at your sheet. Let me put that really high up. And maybe put that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello? Hello? Good? Okay. Perfect. As Seth mentioned, I'm David Short. This is my 8th annual meeting as treasurer. And Seth already touched on it earlier, but the first one without my mom. My dad is here, which is very nice of him. But I'm thinking of her, and I thank all of you for all the support that you've given me and our family over the last 2.5 years. It's been really touching, and it's reaffirmed why I've wanted to give back to this church so much. So thank you. This past year was a big year of change and transition in terms of finances for Christ Church. One, we hired Lori as the business administrator, and I think she's done a really great job. Early on in 2024, we actually thought of outsourcing the whole financial aspect of the office administrator role, and Lori has grasped it head on and done a really great job. And she says it's her favorite part of her job now. So that's been really positive. We transitioned to QuickBooks Online. We used to have a desktop version. We've outsourced all the payroll and tax functions. So Heartland Payroll does that for us. We had check fraud back in March, so that was lots of fun. It was a $16,500 check that got negotiated twice, so the church was out that amount of money for about 6 months. We got it fully refunded on September 30th, which was very nice. But it was a different bank's fault, so not our. No, no. Yeah. Yeah, Lori hadn't actually started at that point. She was just jumping into the fun mess. But that helped us set up positive pay with payees. So now if every check that we issue, the amount and the payee has to match in order for it to be accepted. So I think we've made a lot of strides, and we're in a much better place than where we were 8 months ago. So now I'll just kind of highlight 2024, the results, as well as touch on 2025's budget. So if you flip to page 1 in your financial packet, I know this is 13 pages of really riveting material. I'll try and go through it as fast as I can. But we ended the year 2024 with $57,288 in net income, which, when compared to a budget of about $4,000 of a surplus, is really, really good. The big drivers for this were better than expected pledges and offerings. So 2024 was the first year in which the church pledged more than $700,000 in 1 year, and we exceeded that. Actual pledges came in at about $706,000, which we'll see on the detail on the next page. But in addition to that, so that's actual pledge cards turned in and money contributed. In addition, we received $50,000 of unpledged contributions, which means people that didn't fill out a pledge card in the 2023 stewardship campaign that gave to church. And so the combination of that was almost $755,000, which is our highest year ever, clearly, and better than our budgeted amount of $725,000. So when you have that type of surplus, that's a large part of why the church did so well this year. We also benefited from additional building use, so all the groups that Seth mentioned that use our building on days other than Sunday contribute some amount of money. And then our money in the bank made some interest as well, so that the combination of those two came $8,000 better than budget. These aren't negatives, but these are just where we fell unfavorable to budget, so a little bit higher than budgeted in terms of staff expense, but when you think of it, like we had to budget $500,000 almost for staff expense, and we just came over by 6, so it's not that worrisome. Program expense over budget, I think that's a sign of a good, healthy, strong church. So, youth programming, all the activities that went on, that was $5,000 over budget. Office expense was $5,000, and then building expense was $26,000. A lot of repairs, unforeseen, went into that number, as well as just some unexpected things, but it takes some money to keep this building in good repair. And hopefully some of the things that we'll be doing to strengthen in the future in terms of the building will help to minimize those more routine fixes. So, as I mentioned, very healthy. This is our 10th consecutive year with positive net income, which is actually pretty amazing. And our current retained earnings, if you will, sit at a little over $183,000. The diocesan guidance is to keep that at 10% of your operating revenue, so 96,000 would be a guideline, so almost double that amount. In terms of the allocation of the 2024 surplus, 10%, kind of like a tithe, is going to go to outreach, so that's $5,700, and then the remaining $51,300 will be allocated to the Heritage Fund, which can be used for capital improvements to the building. Turning to page 2, the next 4 pages are the detailed income statement of the church. I'm not going to go through every line, but I just wanted to call out some of the most significant ones. So at the very top, you'll see 4101 pledges. That's where I mentioned we came in at 706, 764 actual for 2024. And then 3 lines below that, 4112 unpledged contributions. That's all the ones that I mentioned, 50,000 of people that did not turn in pledged cards that gave to the church. So the combination of those two is the 755, if you will. But page 2 kind of outlines all of the revenues for church. So you can see at the very bottom, 2024 came out with $964,849 of total revenue. Page 3 turns first page of expenses. So this has the mission and the staff sections. I mentioned staff just came in 5,000 over budget. You can see that at the very bottom of page 3. So if you consider we had $964,000 of revenue and $492,000 of that went to staff. So a little bit more than half. Program is on page 4 along with office. I won't go into detail, but if you have questions on specific line items, that's where all of the program and office expenses are tracked. And then page 5 has all the building expenses, which I mentioned were over by $26,000 for the year. You can see these were driven telephone, $5615, repairs and maintenance, $5620. Both of those were over by between $10,000 and $15,000 for the year. And at the very bottom of page 5, you can see net income of $57,288. So better than where we ended up in 2023 and 2022, and just about $340 worse than where we were in 2021. But all in all, very good. Page 6 is a copy of Christ Church's balance sheet as of January 1st, 2025. At the top of page 6, you'll see the current balances in the church's 3 main accounts. So we have a money market account, a CD account, and a main checking account. Checking is at $221,000. CD that matures in October is earning 4% interest right now at $107,000. And then money market at $173,000, it's earning 2.25% interest. Page 7 is the second page of the balance sheet. I just wanted to call out a few things there. At the very top, you'll see there's $9,700 for the youth mission trip this summer. And then about halfway down, you'll see 3203, the sabbatical fund. We contribute $200 to that every month. So that balance is at $14,000 for Seth's upcoming 2025 sabbatical. And then the Heritage Fund, 3201, that's for all capital funds, is at $90,000 plus the $51,000 we'll contribute it. We'll bring it to about $140,000. That is 2024 as we fall out, and I've only taken 10 minutes, so I'm doing pretty well. Any questions on 2024's results?
David?
Yeah.
Being a self-insured independent contractor myself, I was wondering about the rates of the health insurance. They seem exorbitant for family and for single people, for the clergy. I would love to have your opinion on how that's going along.
Yeah. All of the health plans are through the diocese. And so that's how we're covered. I don't know the exact rates. However, they do continue to increase. I mean, one difference is, so Oswald was covered under his wife's health insurance plan, and then we have Matt and Michael now, which are covered by our church. So that's part of the reason the increase has happened, but the church fully funds everybody's health insurance, and I think we have the option to do 90%.
Something like that, yeah.
But we've always chose to cover everything.
It's also of note that about, I want to say it's maybe 10 years ago, the church, the Episcopal Church pooled all of the dioceses. So each diocese used to go out and find its own health care, used to go shop. The Episcopal Church as a whole said, hey, here's an idea. We'll enlarge our risk pool by having every diocese join church insurance, and then that should bring the rates down across the board. No one knows the counterfactual, no one knows what would have happened, but one of the things that you're robbed in that system is being able to go out and shop insurance, because sometimes when you buy new insurance, they buy your business and they drop those rates, and if you keep doing it, you can kind of like hop like a little frog to other insurance, but we can't do that. And so that's a part of why there isn't a lot we can do, except if you'd like to have employees co-pay, co-share some of that. The diocese will allow you to do some of that. Yep.
Any other questions? All right, we'll go to the 2025 budget. That's on page 8. So based on the stewardship campaign this past fall, we've set the pledge number for this year at $772,000, discounted at 2%. So that's a $42,000 increase from the $730,000 this past year. So thank you to you all. Our budgeted pledge revenue just continues to go up, and that affords us to pay our staff well, to have lots of programming, to fund this building and keep this a vibrant community. In the budget, total mission and outreach increases to $200,000. That's 21% of operating revenue, which is an increase of $16,000 given to organizations outside of this building from this past year. We're increasing the percentage from our operating fund by 0.5%. 4% of our operating fund went to outreach in 2024. 4.5% of our operating revenues will go to outreach in 2025. And we've increased by 0.5% for each of the last, this will be the 4th year. I think we set it with intentionally getting to 5%. It'll be interesting if we can continue to go higher than that. And again, this outreach number is not inclusive of everything. So Feasts of 2025 are not included in this outreach dollar amount. Gifts of Hope, donation, gathering, bake sale, those are all in addition to. So basically you can think of it as if you give $1 to church, 21 cents of that dollar will be going to outreach. The other 55 cents will be going to pay for all the staff that run the church on a daily basis. So 76 cents on your dollar will be going to either help the community or help the people that make this place operate. All staff will be getting a 2.5% cost of living adjustment increase in their salaries for 2025, in addition to up to a maximum of a 2% merit-based raise based on performance. So between 2.5 and 4.5% raises. And when all is said and done, the budgeted net income comes at $278. So hopefully we can exceed that this year. Flipping to page 9, you'll just see the next 4 pages are a detail of the 2025 budget. I'll just call out a few lines again. The very top, 4101, that's where you can see the 756,560 of pledged dollars. So that's 772 discounted at 2%. A couple lines down from there, 4190, diocesan grants. That's a new line in the budget. We received $25,000 from the Diocese of Wisconsin over the last 2 years to be able to help with youth programming. And so we've decided to release $1,000 of that combined $25,000 every month in 2025 and 2026. So that's where you see the $12,000 in that line for 2025. So that will go from birth through high school to help fund all the activities related to that. So kind of as Seth was saying, helping to strengthen the youth program that has really gotten off the ground this year. And then at the very bottom of page 9, you'll see total endowment distributions for 2025 for $43,113. I think Rob will go into more detail in a little bit, but very comparable to endowment distributions in 2024. Flipping to page 10, that's where you'll see mission and staff for the budget. So as I mentioned, total mission or outreach dollars, it's kind of in that 5th column that's not that is all by itself, 200,234. Then staff is all below that, so you can see assumed cost of living increase of 2.5%, and then the merit-based wages for each staff. Page 11 has all the program and office. All program, no budgets were decreased. All were either kept consistent with 2024 or increased based on requests. So, you know, we used an actual $55,000 in 2024. We're budgeting just shy of $63,000 for program in 2025. Office is right below that. Those are mostly routine small expenses. And then building, we've increased the buckets for both telephone and repairs and maintenance in 5615 and 5620 that were over budget in 2024. And building insurance, Andy mentioned health insurance is going up. Building insurance is also going up. Our rates increased 12%. We pay on a July to June cycle year, so we've already been paying half of that, but we'll find out how much they increase again this spring. And then you see the 278 at the very bottom of page 12. So all things considered, I think we're really lucky to be able to fund staff raises between 2.5 and 4.5%, additional programming of $8,000, and still come out with a surplus. We may have made the numbers just kind of work, so it's 278. That's not a coincidence. I mean, we're conservative on a lot of the revenue sides and budgeting based to actuals and wishes on the expense side. So we're hoping to continue to operate and be able to do everything that we'd like to. So thank you all for your generosity. And yes. Yep, that is Banco is the portal online that you're able to give through. You probably noticed that when you go through the steps, there is a screen that says, would you like to contribute or cover the costs of giving electronically? because the church does pay a fee for all, for each time that an electronic gift is given. It's a small fee, but as you can see, it adds up. Yes?
I have a quick question. As someone who is fairly new here, in fact, my name's Barb Larkin. I'm the other Barb Larkin. I come from a question, do we have a diocesan assessment? I know before the merger, when it was the three dioceses, it was
Yep.
separate. Do we have a separate diocesan assessment that's given, and where would that be listed in this sheet?
Yes. So if you look on page 10 of the financial packet, that's where you'll see at the very top, line 5101, diocesan assessment. So in 2025, we will give $128,651 to the Diocese of Wisconsin. In 2024, we gave $119,616. That formula, even though the diocese merged, is still the same as it always has been. It's a 3-year average of the church's operating revenues, if you will. There's a formula based on when we submit our parochial report data. And so it's all based on a church's revenue. And so since, as Seth's chart showed, we're the biggest church in the Diocese of Wisconsin, we pay the most to the Diocese of Wisconsin. And that money goes, I mean, there's a monthly amount that goes to the diocese every month. The diocese, it helps the diocese cover its costs, but part of it also goes to outreach. And so it's in the mission because it's ultimately funding something outside of our walls. Yes?
So clearly, the consolidation of the diocese didn't, in fact, save us any money. I mean, you got rid of a whole bunch of things, and yet we didn't save any money.
So I think one thing to if Seth has more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the formulas really remain unchanged for us. Some churches did pay a little bit less, and some churches ended up paying more because they meshed 3 different diocesan formulas into one. I think the economies of scale that you'd think would help us reduce, I think those have probably been made up because the diocese is trying some new areas of mission. So they've hired regional missioners to try to spark different kinds of ministry. They have some different diocesan positions. So I think they're trying to do some more robust programming for the Diocese of Wisconsin. And they never promised that it would go down much. They did say it would go down, and it did go down. It went from 17.2 to 17.1. So it did go down, but we don't really feel that, and that's where it is.
I think Maureen, I think the real benefit of the diocese consolidation is to help smaller churches. For instance, the Diocese of Wisconsin is offering a lot of financial offerings to small parishes that don't have the luxury of having a business administrator, of having a full-time rector. So, I mean, I think a lot of parishes, maybe if they only have 50 members, they'll outsource their whole treasurer function to the diocese. And so that's where I think it's benefiting some of the smaller churches, and they've been able to staff and help, and with their additional funds, hire additional bodies. But for a church like us, that was the biggest in the Diocese of Milwaukee and is still the biggest in the Diocese of Wisconsin, we're probably not the first church that they're trying to help.
Really, really well said.
Are those smaller parishes expanding?
It's pretty early to say. Did you ask, are the small churches expanding? Yeah, I mean, I think there's like hit or miss across the state. It's difficult if you're a really small church. It's hard to grow because, often you don't have the staff and you don't have the kind of critical mass. You don't have kids programming. So when a young family comes in, they may not see other families, and so it can be really hard. So some of those churches are doing unbelievable outreach work. You'll have a church of like St. Andrews Monroe is like 18 people on a Sunday, but they do like, they help new moms with diapers. They have like a environment, like a green team that's incredible. So some of them are punching way above their weight for mission, even as they are struggling maybe to continue to grow membership-wise. And so we want to keep those at, you know, it's not all about the graph of like how many people are coming to church. So as much as I like to, you know, show that to you all. Well, I mean, I think the biggest way we're helping is to be able to give this lump unrestricted fund to the diocese and then to let the experts kind of channel that, you know, where they feel it. Well, yeah, to be continued. Yep.
Other questions? Yes, Pam.
I was wondering why the cleaning expenses on the top of page 12 are doubled last year real and this year budgeted for over the 2 previous years.
That's a funny story, too. So Steve and Sarah can go into more, and Jeff Evans, if you'd like. But we were not invoiced on a regular basis in the years that show very low expense. And I don't know if it was an incorrect email address or what, but they actually ended up suing Christ Church this year.
But how did it compare then even to the previous years when we were still using those people? I mean, did our real expenses really
So
double?
I think we were, I don't know I want to, so our current monthly cleaning expense is $1,700. That's where this past year and this year the amounts come from. The firm that did it before, I want to say that we were probably budgeting only about $700 a month. They probably tried to bill us, I think, for $1,400 a month. We ended up settling outside of court in December for $9,500? $7,500. So it was a.
But it's not like our change in provider has really increased our costs.
It's also that.
It is also, I think we're getting better services with our new provider, and that's why we're also paying a higher amount. I think some people may have noticed that there were parts of the church that were not cleaned very well under the previous providers, and so this new provider is doing everything that we've asked.
So we're pleased with the change that we've made.
Yeah. We've ultimately changed because we were unpleased with the service we were getting from the previous 2 providers. So this is the 3rd provider in less than 2 years. Any other questions? All right. I don't think we have to have approval. Do we need approval?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's confusing when we take a vote. Basically, we don't have a congregational system, so we have an elected representative system. You all elect vestry members who then put forth a budget. I think as a matter of courtesy, the tradition has been for those who are gathered at the annual meeting to accept the vestry's budget. So we certainly can have that kind of approval. Is there a motion to, Rob motions?
Motion to accept the budget for 2025.
And Lynn seconds such motion? All right, so all in favor? All opposed? All right, very good, thank you. Thank you, Steve. You can choose.
I'm now going to draw your attention to 2 pieces of paper on the table. One is the ballot, which you'll be completing in a few minutes. The other is the leadership packet, which has biographies of all the candidates. These candidates on the ballot have been nominated by a nominating committee this past month. And I am going to take this opportunity to introduce the candidates for these various leadership positions. I'm going to ask those candidates to stand so you can take a look at them. I would ask the members of the audience to hold your applause until after all candidates have been introduced. And I'm going to suggest to you that you probably will notice that some of the elections are contested, actually just one, the final election for nominating committee. The other four elections are uncontested, but you do have an opportunity, as you can see in the blanks, to do a write-in if you so choose. The nominating committee has nominated for senior warden Sarah Frieder. No applause, please, yet. For junior warden Don Allen. For vestry, 5 candidates for 3-year terms: Katie Herman, Paula Hogan, Andy Hobbs, John Hinchy, and I'm sorry, Andy Hobbs was for a 2-year term, and the other nominee for a 3-year term is John Hinchy. Diocesan delegate, Andrew Chetan. Last but not least, diocesan convention delegate, vote for 1, Robert Pavlik. And alternate, Randy Dean. I think you all know Randy. By the way, I draw your attention to the biographies. You might give special attention to the Randy Dean biography. Randy did not submit a bio because everybody probably knows him in it. He felt that. But Lori Sinclair and I decided we put some background information about Randy Dean in the packet. So, I'm going to open the polls for about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask those of you who would like to vote to mark your ballots right now. Here we go. This is important. Thank you. Nominating committee. You vote for 3 candidates. We've nominated 5. And the nominees are Greg Bell, Beth Durant, Tim Kobeson, Lynn Schley, and Kathy Stanford. Okay, now it's time to vote. Members of the vestry will come around to pick up your ballots. Please fold them in half. Okay, well, let me begin by assuring you that I'm going to limit my comments this morning. They will be brief. I'm not going to go through my senior warden's report line by line. You're welcome. Just the highlights. Father Seth mentioned them in his rector's report, but I believe they bear repeating quickly. The opening of the Memorial Garden this past spring, several new hires, the completion of several building projects, new initiatives and growth in our youth program, a record number of pledges, and a record number of people in the pews for Sunday and weekday liturgies. The Holy Spirit is alive and well at Christ Church. It's been an honor for me to serve this past year as your senior warden. A special thanks to my predecessor, Penny Cruz, for preparing me for the job. And thanks to my successor, Sarah Frieder, who has been provided me with invaluable support and advice. And I assure you she will make a great senior warden this next year. And for the sake of time, and for fear that I might leave somebody out, I refer to you my written report where I present the many thank yous for so many of you. So take a look at my senior report for those thank yous. The future of Christ Church Whitefish Bay looks very bright. Father Seth continues to exhibit great leadership. We are so fortunate to have him as our preacher and as our pastor. And yes. And Father Matt will be an excellent sub during Father Seth's sabbatical. The vestry is strong. The new vestry will be stronger, and the staff is strong. Most importantly, we have a committed and growing congregation. Thank you.
I think I'm going to have Rob come up and give an endowment, not a full endowment report, but I want people to be able to make a name and face with Rob. So here you go.
Thank you, Father Seth. Can everyone hear me? For the sake of time, I will keep this brief and point out that there is text of the endowment report in your booklet. It's also linked in the email that was sent out for the annual meeting. As Father Seth said, I am Robert Draper. I am the chair of an 8-member board that is charged with supervising our endowment, which we are very blessed to have, that supports not only the annual expenses that we have, but also the future of this church. We are very blessed to say that it's, as of 12/31, as of December 31st, it was about $950,000. And our endowment board, it's an 8-member board, and we bring finance, investment, business, legal, and church leadership all together to oversee the management of those investments, which we outsource to U.S. Bank. It is comprised, I'll just try to touch on some highlights. It is comprised of 4 subdivided groups that support unrestricted funds to the church, music, the outreach committee, which is the largest grouping of our distributions, and building, capital, and maintenance. And as David pointed out, we distributed $43,000 to the annual budget last year. It'll be approximately the same this year. That number is calculated 5% of the previous average of the previous 3-year value of the endowment. I think the most important thing I can say to this group and to the church is that this is something that is entirely separate from our annual budget. And we are, again, as I said, we're very blessed to have it. This exists through the generosity of not just these current members, but past members going all the way back through the 80s. And if you would like to contribute to the endowment, those gifts are very, very welcome. But know that those gifts are going to be invested, and that is to look to future years, and should the church, God forbid, should the church hit any financial difficulties, we can rely on these funds to be here to continue the good work that is done by our parish and our community here at Christ Church. So if there's any questions, and if you would like to do those kind of gifts, either through current pledges or through testamentary gifts, talk to me, talk to Lori, talk to Father Seth, and we will certainly help you make that happen. But if there's any questions, I just want to give you all an opportunity to have that chance. Thank you. Thank you, Father Seth.
Thank you so much, Rob. All right, I mentioned I was going to just thank those who are rotating off the vestry. Ann Davis is actually taking dinner to Jack and Diane Holtzman. So Ann is not among us, but we're grateful for her service. Why don't we applaud at the end? Where's Alex Rickert? Or now. Alex Rickers, we're very grateful for your service. Thank you. Hooray. Sure. Why don't we applaud now? Yeah. Absolutely. I got two more here. Rob Artunius. Where's Rob? All right. Rob Artunius, thank you very much. Bardunius family has been through so much. And then is Jackie Keene here? Hey, Jackie's in the back. All right. Very grateful for Jackie's leadership. Thank you. All right. Why don't we say our closing prayer through song? So why don't we all stand up? I think our tradition has been that we say that we sing the doxology together. And Andy Stillman often leads us with our first notes. So let's... from whom all blessings flow. We are adjourned. Let us go forth to love and serve the Lord. Alleluia, alleluia.